If I were going to create an environment that was midlife woman friendly at my home, it would have a big bathtub, a nearby walking trail that wasn't too steep, and it would not have any milk chocolate or potato chips or mayonnaise. Those are too dangerous for my waistline, so those shouldn't be in my environment. I'm Dr. Kirtley Parker-Jones, and this is the 7 Domains of Midlife. And today we're driving down into the environmental domain. With me is my co-host, woman of a certain age, Katie Ward, and Katie's an anthropologist, a doctor of nursing practice, a certified midlife women's specialist, and a world explorer. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Kirtley. Great to be here with you.
So what were your adaptations to your home space to make it midlife or menopause friendly? Did you make any changes when...
Yes, and I'm continuing to make them. So we've talked about this before. I installed a ceiling fan in my bedroom. I think that was probably my first big change, was having a ceiling fan that's over my bed where I can set it up so the light is always off at night, but I can adjust the fan speed. So that was probably the first sign I was going through menopause, was I had to have a bedroom fan.
A fan? Okay,
yeah.
Actually, my sister did too. That's exactly what she did.
And I know the seasons are changing when it's time to turn the fan back on. And that's happened just recently. I have a red brick house and it soaks up a lot of heat and it lets it all out at night. And so the fan at night has been the best thing.
The menopause and perimenopause is marked by a lot of irregular periods. So, and to make my environment menopause friendly, I had menstrual products available in a number of places in my purse. I had to make sure I always had them around because my periods weren't predictable then. So I always knew where I could find a menstrual product. And I got some really cool cooling sheets, which are made out of Tencel lyocell, which really are remarkably cooling. In fact, they often feel kind of wet when they're not. They're just cool. I bought some expensive cool sheets. And I made sure I had products for unpredictable periods around. It was pretty easy for my house. What do you think? Other things, other adaptations?
I have a friend who worked in a very male-dominated field, and she bought herself, she said she had a pen with a fan on the end of it.
Oh, yes, I've seen those.
And she just told everybody, if the fan's going, don't come in.
Well, that was the other thing I thought. I think you also need a crying room, but I think you need a crying room all the time. When you need time out, whether you're 20 or 40 or 55 from your family or whatever happening, the bathroom is always a good option, except we only have one bathroom in our house. And so if I hide out in the bathroom in the bathtub, it has to be an arrangement that you can come in, but you can't talk to me. So there's a little curtain, you can come in and pee because we only have one potty, but don't talk to me. So having some space where if you just say, this is really more than I want to deal with in a socially acceptable way, and I'm just going to time myself out a little bit.
Grown-up timeout.
Grown-up timeout. Well, how about a workspace? There's been a lot of talk, both in the New York Times and certainly the British press, about a menopause-friendly workspace.
It's been a trend I've seen in a lot of, a lot of ways. Like the place where I work has created lactation rooms. And that was something that, didn't exist when I was feeding my babies. I'd either just have to pump at my desk and whoever walked by, or worse, go sit in the bathroom. So I think that there is a move afoot to make workspaces sensitive to a variety of needs that people have. And so I think it's only fair that menopausal women are still really quite productive. In fact, it might be some of the most productive years of my life. I'm certainly in my career, I feel like I'm really at the top of my game and doing some of the best work I've ever done, and lots of it. And so, if I have a few little adaptations in my space that make me comfortable, that I can change the temperature in my office, to heat it up a little extra or cool it down a little extra, or those menopause products are in the bathroom. I think that's a really nice thing that my employer can do that makes my work just a little easier and gives me a little bit of security, because there is that even even though I know I'm doing well in my job, you start to worry if you're going to be replaced by a younger version of yourself. So it's a nice way of saying we appreciate you.
Katie, the reality is it takes 2 millennials to replace a boomer. So you don't want to replace us. Now I know you're a young boomer and I'm kind of an older boomer, but it turns out there's a good business model to being taking care of midlife women, because these are women at the top of their game. About 8 in 10 menopausal women are actually at work. They're often the most productive and the most reliable of the workers that you've got. So you should take good care of them. The problem is having a conversation. It's that, my boss might say, yeah, I really want to take care of you because you're really important and your patients love you, or you've been a great teacher. But I don't want to say, okay, well, if you want to take care of me, these are what I need to get through my menopausal transition, because I would never say that word. But increasing the awareness in the workspace that a few small things, it doesn't take a lot. It takes first the conversation. It takes the conversation that there are people, mostly women, but there could be guys. And when I think about, it's easier to get warmer. It's easier to put more clothes on than it is to take clothes off in the workplace. So there might be guys who want a desk fan, and ensuring access to fresh, cool water. That's something everybody could use, and regular breaks and flexibility with working hours. That's pretty good too. And free sanitary products. Now guys mostly aren't going to use those mostly. And also dress codes. If you told me after 40 that I was going to have to wear pantyhose ever again, I might have gone in total revolution. Thank you. I'm sorry for the pantyhose makers. They just don't really exist anymore. But except on Taylor Swift's outfits, she always wears something like
She's
a pantyhose.
Got some kind of support hose there going.
Yeah, super tight. Setting up a quiet space and practicing, dress codes and uniforms that are layered. I'd say those are things that make a workspace menopause friendly, but I would say those are things that make a workspace friendly, not just for women. I think having the conversation about how small things can make a big difference with people who are having hot flushes or unpredictable periods, or they just need a little adult timeout for a little 2 minutes to gather themselves. And that's not just women that need that. Men sometimes need that too.
I agree. It is not just women, but I think recognizing, women stay in the workforce for a long time. We live longer than men. I'm certainly planning to work past what I thought was going to be the traditional retirement age. So I'm a good investment. I think it's worth thinking about what are the needs people have at various stages in their life, whether it's menopause or other stages, breastfeeding or pregnancy, that these are good investments to make in your workforce and to keep people happy. So I do think Europe's a little bit ahead of us often in kind of thinking about these issues, paternity leave and vacation. Like policies in Europe tend to be a little bit more worker centric than the United States is. So I say hats off to the menopause workspace.
So how would you have been given this something I never did? And I was lucky to have minimum, menopausal symptoms, but how do you think you would approach your employer about the needs in your workspace? Would you say, I'm having a lot of hot flushes, or I have some brain fog and I'd like some help for me and my fellow women in the workspace? How do you begin to have that conversation?
Boy, well, I think that it blends in nicely with some of our inclusion kind of work. And I think actually we've been talking about it in my building, and it's not exactly menopause specific, but maybe more age friendly, that, we're thinking about it broader than just menopause.
Midlife.
Yeah. But what are the things that, thinking about employees across their lifespan, and there may be some unique things for people on the second half of their career, that make workspaces a little bit more appealing. So, there's often, you see a lot of initiatives that make work fun for young employees, make people want to come to work, that there's a coffee pot or not in Utah, but where my daughter worked in New York, they had a whole cocktail hour once a week on Fridays that were sponsored by
inside the workplace. Sponsored by the work. Oh my gosh! I've been here too long. I've been here so long.
But it is something that we've been talking about where I work, and it's, not just menopause, but I think we've been talking about the value of older employees and how do you make the workspace friendly for people as they're aging. So there are a lot of things. And I think this gets a little bit back to what we were talking about how you make your home comfortable too, is making sure that the workspace is easy to navigate and it's safe and the sidewalks are clear and people aren't going to fall down. But making sure that people are seen and that they have opportunities for interaction and collaboration and respect. And so I don't know that you have to talk about it just as menopause, but as a...
No, that's something that clearly goes both ways. It really helps to have collaborative groups, to have the older folks actually see the younger folks and the younger folks see the older folks. That to me would be an acceptance of the lifespan of the people at work. Some people are clearly, maybe they're younger, maybe they've got young kids at home. That creates a whole spectrum of needs to be working from home or needs to take a half day off to take your kid to the doctor. There's so many things that are unique to the younger group and to the older group, but it's much better if instead of talking about older folks and younger folks, is if we talk about ourselves as folks. There are clearly some skills that both sides have. I wouldn't be the one to be the fastest with a new electronic health record, but I know a lot more about medicine and how to think about broadly. But how do we honor the special parts of people's lives in the workspace?
Boy, and I wish I had all the answers to that, but they're good conversations to start to have.
Well, I think when I see workspaces where there's several generations or there's several spectrum, often the young people go off in one corner and they talk about young people things, and the old people go off and talk about their health or whatever, their IRS or whatever they want to
retirement
talk about.
Accounts.
Their retirement account. Here I am having a senior moment. But more things where people can do them together so that we can enjoy each other. The way we would in a family, I think that families often, when they gather, the youngers and the olders can tell stories and everything together. Where the workspace, that's a little more difficult.
And they are sometimes difficult conversations. I'm thinking about my team that I work with, and there are a lot of conversations in my team about how to make sure that time off is equitable. And then at the same time, I think, well, these young people are taking maternity leaves and I'm not going to need that again, but where's my equivalent? And so, it takes a little bit of a difficult conversation about how do you do this inclusively for, everybody's sensitive to.
Yeah. So I don't want it to be just, it's only women because they have a period products and they have a lactation room and they have a cooling fan. I think it's thinking about what's inclusive for everyone is best, that's reasonable within that field. And now I have to take my own little rant in terms of the environment and menopause and aging, and that it turns out that women who age in a city where the air quality is poorer have more rapid cognitive decline. And this is when you even control for education and for socioeconomic status. It's actually been an extension of the nurses' health study. So these are all nurses, so they are well educated and they have whatever incomes. But if you live in bad air, it's like losing a couple years of cognitive health. So when I think about an environment that is midlife friendly, it would be for everyone, not just the people who are going to be grandmas someday. I think it's for everyone that we want a space that's healthy for everyone to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Certainly more things happen to older people in terms of bad air. There's more pneumonias and there are more cardiovascular events and more heart attacks and more strokes and more cognitive decline in the olders. But the youngers are just setting themselves to get those things later. No, for me, when I think about the environment that's healthy for midlife women and menopausal women, I think we need to do what we can to make indoor air So if you're working in a restaurant and you're working next to the grill, or you're working in a place that has wood-fired pizzas, you can bet your indoor air quality is awful. So I want my indoor air quality, my air quality at my home, to be pristine. And I want it to be that for all women, and find ways that the air that they breathe is good. So that's my little rant on air quality and aging and cognitive function.
It's so important. And we see it, the air in our valley, just, the entire valley is a problem. And we know that. So the political will to, think about this issue and engage in this issue, for the health of everybody who lives in the Salt Lake Valley, but especially on the west side of the valley. And there's
absolutely
some really interesting data, that's available that really looks at the differences in air quality just in different zip codes within our valley. And there is good hard data that people that live on the west side of the Salt Lake Valley, where it's just a little bit lower at the bottom of that lake bed where that dirty air sinks, that it is costing people years off their lives and quality off of the years that they have. And I think we all have a responsibility to get engaged in that issue. So I'm absolutely with you, Curly.
Well, and when we talk to midlife women and menopausal women about how things that they can do to feel a little bit better and get their bodies ready for the next 30 or 40 years, we talk about exercise. But if the air quality is bad, then you need to have exercise facilities that are people friendly. And I have to put a shout out to our local sports facility, the Salt Lake Sports Facility. And I'm sure that many towns have these. I called up the person who is in control of the Salt Lake Sports Complex and asked what the air quality was. What were the air quality measurements during some bad air days? Because if people are encouraged to go and exercise indoors. So they said they didn't know. So I tromped right down to the Salt Lake Sports Complex with my portable PM 2.5 meter. And I walked in into the track, and I walked into the exercise rooms, and I walked even into the pool, where it's not fair because humidity makes these data off a little bit, but it was outstanding. They didn't even know how good it was. And the great thing is about our own local, for everyone, open to everyone for a very small fee sports facility. But for women of a certain age, the track goes around the skating rink, and it's always cool, if not chilly. So if you want a chilly moment, all you have to do is just go to your local, well, not your local because you may not have this, but to our sports complex, and you can walk around and watch people skating, and it's very cool up there.
That is a fantastic recommendation.
Yes.
And hats off to the Zoo's Arts and Parks program.
Yes.
Is funding those sports complexes.
You betcha. And it turns out a bunch of the exercise machines look over into the ice rink. So if just the thought of being cold would be lovely, you can get on the elliptical or you can get on the treadmill and look down at the ice rink. It's always funny to watch 6-year-old hockey players run into each other.
Well, and so talking about walking, I want to just put in a plug for the importance of walking. I think I hear this really often from my patients, that they're gaining weight and nothing at all has changed. But in fact, it's easy to move just a little bit less. And so I think that that's always one of my recommendations, is to make sure you have good walking shoes. And, this is the time in life when it's time to stop wearing cute shoes and make sure you're wearing shoes with good traction and ones that you can walk in, and that you take a few extra steps, assuming good air, that this is really the time when it's important to park a little further away and get a few extra steps and take the stairs instead of the escalator, and maybe, carry something on your back for a little extra weight, and, get that movement in, because this is when it really pays off to think about going for a walk with your friends, rather than going out to lunch or out to drinks. Keeping those steps going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in thinking about what you need in your environment, whether it's your home environment or if it's your work environment or if it's in your overall community's environment, thinking about air, a smart psychiatrist told me once 40 years ago that if I needed something, it was my responsibility to speak up like a grown-up. I thought that was very remarkable the way she just said that to me, and that if I needed it, I needed to speak up. But at home and in the workplace, it's hard to speak up and speak out about menopause and midlife issues that would be better with the changes in home and workplace. So if there's something that you can do to make it a better space, then speak up. Women can lead the way in making spaces more comfortable for everyone. And guys, wouldn't you like a fan sometime? And if you need a change that would help you feel better and perform better in your workplace, remember you're a valued addition to your team and our team here at the 7 Domains of Women's Health. So thanks for listening. And if this is the first of the 7 Domains of Midlife that you've tuned into, check out the rest of the topics in women7.com or wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the other 7 Domains topics as well. Use them to start a conversation with your friends or your coworkers and people you love. And thanks for joining us on the 7 Domains of Women's Health.